Hello and welcome to the channel. We've got the top 4 round of the 3-on-3 Spring Bandai Card Fest over out in Japan here for you. Going to be an exciting one in OP15. This is also pre-rotation and pre-ban list if you're curious about that. So especially because you know by the title and thumbnail and looking at these different decks that we've got on these two teams, pudding is still allowed. Raigo's not allowed yet, or something like 4-cost Jinbei, but pudding is. Just want to let you all know before we get into this that I am not the official live stream for this championship. If you want to watch the official live stream, you can check out the link in the description below. I've got that there for you. But if you want to hear my commentary, because I am trying to make it on the big stage with Bandai, first of all, welcome. We've also got the top 8 and top 16 rounds from this tournament over on the channel in the 3-on-3 Spring Bandai Card Fest playlist. So make sure to go check that out. And if you're watching this a couple days later, the final should already be up already. So make sure to go check that out in the playlist as well. Looking at these two teams, there's a couple things that I think that are really interesting. One, if you do not know, there's a rule change to where originally in 3v3 tournaments, you can't run the same color combination leaders in a team. Both of these two right here are blue, yellow, previously not allowed. But I think for this championship and maybe at the start of this championship season, because we now are in the 26-27 championship season, they've alleviated that restriction to now you just can't have the same leader on the team. You can't have multiples of blue, yellow Nami or multiples of blue, yellow Boa. You can have both of those, but not multiples of the same. One thing that's also curious is Dracula Mihawk. And so I believe Dracula Mihawk is our stream game. And so especially with Boa being heralded as one of the top decks in this format, whether you think, you know, it's the strongest one or maybe the second strongest, I would say, to like Purple and L potentially, it's just a good pick, right? Especially with those 2 leader effects on opponent's turn. If you play a character, draw 1 card, but also the Dawn times 1 once per turn. If a 5,000 power character, Kuja Pirates or Amazon Lily card would be KO'd, you can force your opponent to take a life. Very strong, as we've seen in OP14 and 15, especially with the additions in EBO3 and also OP15. Dracula Mihawk is a really interesting pick, in my opinion, right? If you face the last type leader, you get plus 1,000 power for the entire game, which is not relevant right here. But on that activate main once per turn, if you tap one of your cards, if you have a 5 cost or more on the field, you'll be able to restand 3 Dawn. It's curious that if Anel is on the decline in popularity, still a very good pick, but like not as many people are playing it and more people are playing these blue yellow decks in Nami and Boa, could be really curious that Dracula Mihawk is kind of like a sneaky pick in this format, and it's worked out for this team, reaching as high as the top 4. But this hand from the Dracula Mihawk is not looking super great. You've got a lot of 2K, so a good amount of counter in the Laboon and the Zoro, but you're really depending on this 1-cost Bonnie to be able to find a 5, or really just any supernova character. It doesn't have to be a 5-cost or less to have in this game, right? To be able to get something going for you. So at least you've got that 1 search and the 6-cost law. The Boa has a pretty decent hand, I feel like, better than the Mihawks, I would say. Does have a Shaku Yaku 2K to be able to use for a counter, has some healing potential in the 9-cost Boa, the 6-cost Kuma, and 5-cost Borsellino, and has the card that is not yet banned, but is going to be banned in Charlotte Pudding. Can't complain about this hand, I think, if you're Boa. And so going into this, Dracula Mihawk going first is going to be really nice for him, right? Because Dracula Mihawk does want to go first in pretty much every single matchup that he plays. And so it's going to be play Nami on the first turn, then search with it in the next one. As we move into this one, is going to go ahead with the 1 Dawn, tap that to play the Bonnie on the field. The Laboon is going to be nice to set up in the next turn, right? Because especially the second turn for Dracula Mihawk, you're typically not doing anything besides searching. So now with the Laboon, this nice protection effect from OP15, you're going to be able to at least be more proactive on getting these protection effects onto the field. But top decking another Laboon, oh, you got to hope you find something on this Bonnie, because this hand sucks, I will say, as the Dracula Mihawk. So looking in that top 5 for a Supernova Pirate, but oh my gosh, does not find a single one. There's 2 Dead Man's Game, very good card, can't grab that. Can't grab the 1-cost Perona, which is a very good card. Can't grab the Trichelysium event or the Carrot, because the Carrot is a Minx type, so it's a whiff from the Bonnie. And because Laboon, right, even though it's a protection effect, right, 7,000 power base would be removed from the field, it's only by opponent's effects. So as this Boa just goes in and swings at this Bonnie's going to leave the field of play, and you're going to be stuck with literally nothing, right, as this Dracula Mihawk. So, especially on that lucky top deck, as the Boa, you're going to be able to play and establish this 4-cost Boa on the field right now. So, we'll see as he decides to swing 5,000, clears that Bonnie, is going to go ahead now with that Boa. Going to play it on the field. Going to be looking within that top 3 to be able to find or reorder the pieces, I should say. Does find a fine cost Nami in there, which is so good, right, to play in the next turn, especially because this Dracula Mihawk is going to be sitting at 5 or 4 life. When you play the Bonnie, or the Nami, you're going to be able to play it out on the field and force your opponent to take a life. So now on the 5-Dawn turn, does find a carrot, right, which is very nice, right? You want a body to establish on this turn, because if you don't establish a body, it is double trouble. So now goes in with the 5,000 power swing. I like this swing right here, right? Especially because that 4-cost Boa is a 6,000 power body. You could get your opponent to go ahead with the free block, right? Not take a life or command any cards in hand, and you'll be able to freeze it with the 5-cost carrot. So is going to go exactly that for the free block, and now play the carrot down onto the field, stunning the 7-cost or less to not restand on the next turn. This carrot is going to be really nice to establish, right? Cannot be removed because of that Laboon, as it's a 7,000 power or less character base-wise. So now Boa is going to be able to play this 5-cost Nami on the field to be able to get this Dracula Mihawk to go down to 4 life and give Arrested Dawn to leader, and be able to go in with maybe a 7,000 power swing over at lead. So he's going to do exactly that. 9-cost Dracula Mihawk is going to be a good card, but not going to work on your 7-Dawn turn. And another 2K Zoro. Oh, you better hope this top deck is good if you're the Dracula Mihawk right now. But no, I know your strong soul goal from the very start is just going to make this a really bad turn. I feel like for the Dracula Mihawk, you want to establish a body every single turn to be able to keep up with pace on the Boa, but also gain those extra effects like the 7-cost Shanks, right? Even just a 5-cost character of any kind could be really good. You could go in and play with the Zoro if you want to, and just establish another body on the field, especially if you keep taking life so aggressively, because you have to, it feels like, to be able to get something going. That Trafalgar Law at least is going to activate as a blocker when you're at 1 or less life, which is not influential right now, but could be later. So now goes in with the 5 or 6,000 power swing, freezing that Boa yet again. As long as this carrot's on the field, this Boa is not going to restand as active for the leader effect and potential block. So goes ahead, takes it, is not going to be a trigger, another 4-cost blocker, and is going to go attaching at least 1 Dawn to Dracula Mihawk, 6,000 power at lead. Unsure if he's going to go with another Trafalgar Law or not, like I was mentioning, or maybe the 4-cost Zoro and leave some Dawn active, especially for that I Know You're Strong event. But I feel like you kind of, well, maybe you don't want to leave the strong event yet, because there's an opportunity if he turns this Nami sideways to get like a potential triple freeze, maybe. Actually, it would probably only be double freeze, unless this Boa took a life right now, triggered a body, and then swung with it in the next turn. I don't mind Boa on this 6,000 power swing, taking the life, not giving up the Shaku Yaku, just because you'll have the Borsalino to be able to heal, especially on an 8-Dawn turn. You don't really have like, you can't play 9-cost Boa, right? So 5-cost Borsalino can't be bad, I would say. You would basically be cycling a life at that point. But goes ahead with the Shaku Yaku, gets that card out of hand, is not going to be able to heal with Borsalino, at least on the next turn. Probably maybe going to go more towards a Kuma angle, I would say. And so plays that 4-cost Zoro blocker. If that Zoro would be rested, would be able to rest one of your characters instead, and has that Laboon there to be able to rest instead. Boa not really having that resting effect, but especially with the Laboon protection, now the Zoro is not going to be removed from the field of play. The Nami comes in, forcing him to take another life right there. I think top deck that, so definitely a good top deck, I will say, attaching 1 Dawn. Law and Beppo going to be nice for the 10 Dawn turn, but you're only going to 9 on this turn. And so now the 7,000 power swing, probably just going to be a couple sevens, is going to use that I know you're strong, so I'll go up from the very start to go up to 8,000 power. Now the 8,000 power swing, more than likely going to put this Mihawk down to is going at the carrot. So is just going to go for the block. Doesn't give up any of the counter in hand, which is interesting, and pass off the turn. And so now going up to 9 Dawn, can play that 9 cost Dracula Mihawk if he wants to prevent one of these characters from attacking, and then stun another one with the carrot. Does find a smoker there, another non-supernova in this build, but a good body to play. If you had kept the Zoro on the field for some reason, maybe like double 2K Labooned out of it, or maybe like Laboon Zoro 2K, you would be able to use the Trafalgar Law to pick up the Zoro and then go down and play something like the 5 cost Smoker. I don't know if that's a good play, but that's something that you could have done. So is going to go ahead 6,000 power at lead to swing in and freeze the 6 cost Boa. Again, because of Boa's leader effect, right? If the Boa blocker would block and get KO'd, Dracula Mihawk would have to take a life. So getting that frozen is the best option in my opinion. Takes it. It is a Irate Quasar help. Has no way to set it up for the Borsalino, I will say. And you don't have a Borsalino in the trash right now. So is not going to get any value off of that anyway. Now goes with a 5,000 power swing. So I think going in now with the 9 cost Mihawk as the option as Boa, you don't want to take life too fast, I will say, right? You've got a couple non-counter cards in the Boa, or both of the Boas, I will say, and no 2Ks in the hand. All you've got is that 1 cost Irate Quasar event that, remember, you do have to be at 2 or less life. So is going to go ahead and take the 1K on the swing right there, probably playing 9 cost Boa in the next turn if I had to take a guess for the 10 Dawn turn. Now goes in with Mihawk, is going to be able to use the leader effect to be able to restand 3 Dawn, and then with that Mihawk, when he turns sideways on your turn, says that one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 9 or less cannot be rested until the end of the opponent's next turn. Is going to go ahead and say that that Nami can't swing within the next turn. And this is also just a really good body to establish, in my opinion, for those 9 cost Boas that come down onto the field, right? Going to be able to make sure that that 9 cost Boa is not going to be able to swing, and only 2 swings left for this Boa on this turn. Does have a lot of healing potential, right, to be able to utilize. Can still get a Dawn on leader because of being at a 10 Dawn turn, or maybe leave one for the Irate Quasar help if he goes ahead, takes a life early in the turn, and then maybe decides to use it at 2. But after top decking the Hiyori, does have the combination. He can set up the Irate Quasar help if he wants to, right? With a 10,000 power body, a 6,000 power swing, a leader swing, and maybe like a Law and Beppo coming in, there's the potential that you're going to have to take life a bit aggressively. So it might be beneficial to utilize the Hiyori now to be able to switch the life with the Irate Quasar help, then go in maybe with Borsalino because you're at 2 or less to heal 1, and then get this combination off. But we may see, as previously, like in the Red-Green Luffy matchup, where maybe you want to trash the Borsalino from either countering or different various effects instead of playing it out on the field, because with Dracula Mihawk having so many different resting effects, or that 9 cost Secret Rare right there that says, okay, I can say that one of your characters can't be rested. That means that Borsalino wouldn't be able to be blocked, and therefore you wouldn't be able to put it in the trash to be able to cycle in. So does start out with the 7,000 power swing, though, is going to go ahead and take it. Gets a coffin boat. Not a counter event, I will say. Only has 1 swing left. Cannot go for game, but could go ahead with the 9 cost Boa if he wanted to. You're definitely not playing pudding, right? It might be beneficial to go with like the Hiyori into the Boa blocker, just simply because then you'll be able to play those 2 bodies. You'll be able to set up the Irate Quasar help with the Borsalino heal. And maybe also you'll be able to know exactly what you heal with Borsalino, because you're reordering the top 3. You're going to be able to know what that random life is, or maybe it wouldn't be random at that point, but you would be able to know what that life is going in. Maybe you could set up like a trigger body or something that's really important to be able to maybe get you another body on the field, or maybe like a 2K to guarantee in your hand, but starts out with the 5,000 power swing at lead. Ends up not taking it, goes in now reordering that top 3 with that Boa blocker. Like I mentioned, Looks like we see Perfume Femur, Gorgon Sisters, and also the Hiyori. So could go ahead and put the Gorgon Sisters in the life and then have the possibility for something like Perfume Femur draw. There's a lot of interesting lines that I think you could take as the Boa right now in this situation. But yeah, again, because of the different resting effects, you don't need to play the Borsalino on the field. You could just maybe counter and take the life, honestly, but no, is going to play the Borsalino. So go ahead and heal. I think that was Gorgon Sisters that he put at the top of the life. He does have another Borsalino in the hand, so maybe just trying to get the value now out of the Borsalino and maybe is thinking about the combo later. So now draws for turn. Dracula Mihawk does have Law and Beppo to be able to utilize and make him a 7,000 power leader through the opponent's turn. That's going to be nice on the counter side, I think. And so is going to go with that Law and Beppo. Rest the blocker right there to be able to make sure that it cannot restand because there's 2 or more rested characters on the field. He's going to be able to gain that power. He's going to be able to stun 3 different bodies. If he goes in with the Dracula Mihawk right now, to be able to say that one of Boa's 9-cost or less characters cannot be rested, he's going to be able to say, okay, this Borsalino right here cannot block. And so now you've lost both of your blockers that you've got. Puck goes ahead with the 7,000 power swing. I don't know if I would have liked the Dracula Mihawk character swing before the leader swing. I don't know which one is correct, to be honest. It's an interesting scenario. But also Dracula Mihawk resting the Law and Beppo for leader effect earlier to have 3 done as active, maybe trying to feint a counter event or something, or maybe get this carrot to swing like 7,000 power instead of 6. Is going to force this Boa to have to think of how they want to counter this. So is going to get the block already with Borsalino set up. And again, that's why I kind of would have liked the Dracula Mihawk character swing, right? So there's no opportunity for this scenario. So now goes in with this, is going to say that the Nami can swing, really only allowing, especially after carrot swings, only 1 character can attack in the turn for the Boa unless a trigger body happens from something like the Gorgon Sisters, which you know is in the life. So yeah, we could have had the same situation of like, here's the thing as like the Mihawk, right? Like, because your opponent's character cannot be rested until the end of your opponent's next end phase, if he were to stick on the field as the Gorgon Sister triggers that we knew was there and drawing a 2K, the Borsalino would have just maybe been played over by the Gorgon Sisters, right? Because we knew it was, or well, the Dracula Mihawk didn't know that it was in the life. The Boa did. So I don't know, especially after the 4-cost Boa and the heal, right, to know what is in there. You gotta assume that it's like a trigger body, right? So I don't know. I feel like we lost a little bit of value there on the attack, but we are going to be able, after playing the Coffin Boat, because we can only not play characters, we can still play cards of like stages or events. We're going to be able to pass the turn, restand to Dawn, move into Boa's next turn. So did not end up swinging the carrot. That I think is also kind of interesting, right? You could have froze another one of these bodies. Now you're going to have to eat up another one of these swings, because why would you just not swing out as Boa? Especially when you're going to go to 3 life if you play something like the 9-cost Boa, and then you've got some 7k pokes with the 4-cost Boa blocker, the Nami as well. And then you have one more Dawn to work with to either swing like 7 with lead, maybe 7 with Gorgon Sisters, or leave that one up for the Iray Quasar help. A couple different avenues this Boa could go around. Could also be in a situation where you're playing 5-cost Borsalino, or maybe Hiyori set up for the Quasar. And I think if you play the 9-cost Boa, you're playing over the 5-cost Nami, right? And so is going to attach one with the Nami, swing 7,000 power lead, is just going to 2k out of it, right? Because he is a 7,000 power base leader. But you like seeing a 2k instead of a 1k coming out of the hand right there. Is just going to go aggressive again with another 7,000 power swing. Now you know as the Dracula Mihawk that you're not going to face a 9-cost Boa to force you to go down to 0, utilizing the secret rare effect of once per turn, trashing a card from hand and giving 2,000 power to your leader, helps you get rid of a non-counter card in your hand in that 5-cost Smoker. So 8 done left still to work with for this Boa. Probably going in with the Borsalino Hiyori play, I would imagine, because you forfeited your opportunity to play the 9-cost. And so is going to do the 2. It looks like is going to be for the Hiyori. I feel like I would have liked to play over the 5-cost Nami and keep the Gorgon Sisters on the field, but I guess can't complain about that. Is going to set up that Iray Quasar help now that you have a Borsalino in the discard pile. and maybe is going to use 5 to put the Borsalino over the Hiyori right here and heal 1 life. You should know what this life is, I'm pretty sure. I think this is the 3rd card. I personally can't remember what it is, so I won't try to take a guess, but it's probably going to be a good card, I will say. And now, passing off the turn after attaching 1 to lead, so then Dracu Mihawk would have to take a life if he KO'd one of the boas that are arrested. And so now, after topping a 6-cost Trafalgar Law, doesn't have a way to force rest one of these characters, but could go in with a Perona. The Perona might give you an opportunity to find something like 7-cost Shanks to be able to rest the Borsalino, but still at 3 life, there's still a lot of work that you have to do, and is just going to go in with a 6,000 power swing over at the life and freeze or stun that 4-cost boa yet again. That's why Carrot's so good in this matchup. Has really been one of the reasons why he's been able to like claw back into this game to give himself a fighting chance, in my opinion. So now is going in with the 2K Hiyori to get out of that attack. Is thinking about just a 5K swing at lead. If he goes a 5K swing at lead, would have to command a card or a block, but goes in with Perona. I like the Perona, right? You want to see what you can try to get. No 7-cost Shanks right there, but you find a 2K. These searches have been awful for the Dracu Mihawk, I will say. The Supernova one, not finding anything, and now the Perona just finding you a 2K. I don't know if you like prefer to find a 2K in that scenario like the Zoro. If that is the case, then that was awesome, but I feel like I kind of want like 7-cost Shanks or something like that. I want to be able to proactively rest this Borsalino, but also on top of that, minus 1,000 power across the entire board, which is going to be so good, right, for the defensive side. So goes in with 7,000 power at lead, is going to take that life, is going to be Shaku Yaku to be able to on play draw 1 card from your leader effect, and then on the on play of Shaku Yaku, because you have 2 or less life, draw 2, trash 2. So is going to trash Marguerite and 9-cost boa, some non-counter cards in favor of the 1K Ran and Nami. And so now with the Mihawk is going to be able to swing and say that the Borsalino cannot swing at this point. We know this is Iray Quasar help, so he is going to trigger that for the Borsalino and heal 1 life because of that 2 or less life condition. And now, or after the draw 1 from the on play. In fact, I forgot about that. With the boa, I was so upset at the Borsalino Rayquaza combo play. But now after healing 1 is going to go in now with Law and Beppo. This Borsalino can block if he wants, right? Does not have to give up a life for this Law and Beppo swing, but is going to go ahead and take it. A potential trigger. Is it a play body on the field? Is going to be a Marguerite. And I like this Marguerite one, right? Because not only do you get to draw another one because of your leader effect, but you get to look in that top 5 for a specific card that you can want of Amazon Lily or Kuja Pirates. Finds 4-cost blockers, 3-cost Marguerite, and you could just pitch this card if you don't want it off of the search. But most importantly, it got you a draw card in that leader effect. And so we'll see. Pitches the 9-cost boa right there. So still does not want that. Passes off the turn. Did he just pass off the turn? No, he didn't pass off the turn right there. I thought he did. I thought he restood one with Coffin Bow just now, but maybe he picked it up and then put it back down. I think he's thinking about playing the Trafalgar Law blocker. The Trafalgar Law blocker, if you did pick up the Perona, you'd be able to play 5-cost or less onto the field. You don't really have one that you love, but maybe you could like put down Perona again, right? Playing over this Laboon, goes in with the Law to pick up the Perona, and I think play it back down onto the field just to be able to get a search off to look in that top 5 for a slash kind of character. Finds an event as well. That's something that they could find. So does grab that 1K event. So with the Coffin Bow, you'll be able to restand 1, and with leader effect now restanding more than that, because you tap the Coffin Bow, now has 4 Dawn left, is going to utilize the I Know You're Strong, so I'll go off from the very start to freeze those 2 bodies. So good, in my opinion. And then end of turn, restand 1 for 2 left. Definitely an interesting spot right now. Man, is Dracu Mihawk in the driver's seat of this game? It kind of feels like I feel like he's been teetering on disaster, but has somehow, like, with all of these different freezing events from the I Know You're Strong, from the Carrot specifically, he's been able to really push back a lot of the aggression that Boa has and try to make sure that he can stay alive in this game. He's got a blocker in that 6-cost Law right there, has a couple 2Ks in the hand. If he can keep this Law alive, right, might be able to swing in a bit at lead. So does have to worry about Perfume Femur though. Probably does not want to go down to 0 if he doesn't have to, but still has to start off these 4 swings that the Boa's got. He's got to have an event in life to be able to survive out of this, I think. Does have that Dracula Mihawk to be able to use the effect for plus 2,000 power. Cannot use it right now. I mean, he could use it right now if he wanted to, but he'd have to use it and a 2K to get out of the attack. And so is just going to 2K out of that attack. Only 2 cards in hand now. The only 7 Warlord on the field that can get the Perfume Femur is the leader. So I'd imagine as Boa, you want to swing with the leader last. Try to get him to go down to 0 as soon as possible. If you want to go for game, though, I think you have to swing with the Borsalino, with the blocker, with the 1 life. So just go in with another 7 right here. So is going to go for the block on that Trafalgar Law. Still has the secret rare Zoro effect. It is going to make him think about the numbers. If he goes 9-9 and there's a 1K in life, he is going to be able to get out of this and then go in maybe for game, but he has to commit the blocker. So what do you do right now? You don't have another Irate Quasar help to be able to combo with the Gloriosa that you have in your hand. And so is going to go with a 9,000 power swing over at lead, especially with this command of this. What is the 1K? It's a Trafalgar Law. It's not a counter card. And Dracula Mihawk so close in that game after having such a disastrous start is just going to get beat by the Boa swinging a bunch of 7s and 9s. That's definitely the route that you want to go if you're the Boa Hancock, right? Because you want to be able to force Dracula Mihawk to use multiple cards in hand, right? 7s are very, very good when he's only a 5,000 power base leader, and the 9s working out well also. Dang, if it was only a 1K, I would have loved to see Dracula Mihawk win that game. But even doing so bad, like not necessarily his play was bad, but the hand that he had to start out the game was bad, and almost winning that game. I truly think that he could have won that game if he would have just survived in that turn. I think kind of shows you like how strong Dracula Mihawk could be if you're metagaming for a specific championship and you expect way more Boas, way more Namis than you do Purple Anels, right? If Purple Anel goes down to a decline and people learn how to play against it, people tech against it, people combo against it, and Boa and Nami continue to trend upwards within the format, I don't know, Dracula Mihawk could be one of those sneaky picks like we saw in this tournament. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. That was actually a really good game. I thought it was going to be a blowout after seeing that starting hand, but shout out to that Dracula Mihawk player. You really pulled it through, I feel like. Well, you made it exciting at least. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and go check out the playlist, or at the time that I'm recording this or this video is published, I should be commentating day 2 of the Mesquite Regionals, right? The top 32 cut. So make sure to go check that out. Support the channel by watching that as well.